Hey folks, Reading Adam here. What I'd like to talk about today is a counterintuitive thought, especially for perhaps a millennial male or an Xer. So, I think Bruce Lee ruined action films. So let me explain this a little bit. I know, it's a little bit of an odd stance to take. What could you possibly have against Bruce Lee, the father of amazing martial arts movies? And I have to say, I don't think I liked his movies. He was a big hero of mine when I was a kid, but now I'm a man. I'm grown up, and I don't. I, I don't really care anymore about his stuff. It's sad for me to say this, but I mean, I think his philosophical stuff, his philosophical writings in his book, are interesting, good things to ponder. His level of athleticism is very impressive. Lots of impressive things about the guy, but people primarily remember him for how much ass he kicked. And is that a good reason to idolize someone? I don't know. So, thinking about this, I thought, I don't think that I don't think that what he did for movies was necessarily a good thing. And here's why I think that. So, the purpose of a Bruce Lee movie is to have really cool fights. And somebody like Bruce Lee can pull that off. His speed, his flexibility, his knowledge of different moves. He spends his life practicing this. Jackie Chan, Jet Li. There's another Chinese guy that did the Ip Man movies. Donnie Yen. I think that's his name, Donnie Yen. Those guys their fights are cool. Okay, their fights are cool. Unfortunately, cool fights are kind of pointless. They're cool visually, but they don't really add to the story. They don't add to the character of the film. There's no romance, and I mean romance in the way that Don Quixote is a romantic novel. It has nothing to do with love. It has to do with a character changing over the course of the book or the story. So this character, if he's just a cool fighter, all you want to see are him in cool fight scenes. Now, it wouldn't be a very interesting movie if it was only fight scenes the whole movie. That would be boring. After a while, it would get so tedious, repetitive, uninteresting. I'm thinking of the barrel scene in the Hobbit movie where you have the dwarves like perfectly killing goblins that are after them on the river in their barrels. And then Legolas like perfectly fighting and killing, and all of his arrows are perfect. And I mean, it's cool the first time, but then when it drags on and on, it's not cool anymore. It's not even interesting. It's like, okay, there's not even any drama here because I know that he's going to survive. All of them are going to survive. There's no tension. There's no drama, and that's another problem with cool fights. There's no drama to it. You're just watching it for the visual aspect, and that is a problem. So the other day I watched a movie, They Live by John Carpenter, directed by John Carpenter, and it stars Roddy Piper, and he was a professional wrestler, big dude. But his character is not like a fighter. Like, he's a solid guy, but he's not. He doesn't kick anyone's ass. He shoots people, but he doesn't, kick ass. He doesn't have any like martial skill. He's just a big bad dude. So there's a fight between him and a friend of his, a guy he meets at a work site, and they end up getting into a fight because Roddy Piper's character wants this other guy to wear these glasses that when you put the glasses on, they look, they're sunglasses. When you put them on, you can see past this signal that these aliens are broadcasting. So aliens are hiding in plain sight. Regular people can't see them. And when people look at magazines or look at advertisements, they don't see what those things are truly, which is just a white blank piece of paper with the word consume or obey or reproduce. Just basically things that are, the point of the movie is that these aliens are going to have people turn into slaves eventually. But these glasses is a way to kind of get past this. It's some sort of signal being broadcasted. Sunglasses get past it. Anyway, that's a little bit too much backstory, but I wanted you to understand why he wants this guy to put on these sunglasses. And the guy is just like, come on, man, this is ridiculous. He doesn't do it. He doesn't want to do it at all. So eventually, Roddy and this guy get into a fist fight. And so it starts off fairly generic. They're punching each other. They haven't gotten serious yet. And then it just suddenly gets serious. And it gets more and more intense to the point that like Roddy is like in this state of mind where he's like frothing at the mouth practically, and he's hell bent on accomplishing this task of beating this man so that he can wear these sunglasses. It just gets more and more serious. The fight gets really dirty to the point where you think, like, are they trying to kill each other? It looks like they're trying to kill each other, and it's hilarious. It's funny, but it's also dramatic, and the characters change through the fight, and they're not like, they take way more hits than people would be able to take, in my opinion, especially the body slams on hard pavement. I feel like some bones would be broken. I don't think they'd be capable of continuing after a pretty good body slam on hard pavement. But by the end of the fight, like, something had changed. The characters had gained a certain level of respect for each other, and the other guy was able, Roddy was able to get the sunglasses on the other guy, and that kind of moved the story forward. The fight was for drama. They could have shot the scene where he says, you got to wear these sunglasses, you'll see these things, and the guy'd be like, oh, okay, let me try them on. Oh my goodness. That could have happened, but instead, they decide, let's have them fight. And we're going to make it show some of the character of our main hero, Roddy. You're going to see Roddy's resolve to save mankind through spreading knowledge of what he discovered when he found these sunglasses and put them on. So it's strange. I mean, it was drama. The fight was not for the purpose of watching a cool fight scene. If they tried to make it a cool fight scene, I mean, they tried to make it semi-realistic, and I think they succeeded with that. But if they tried to make it a cool fight scene, it would have lost its purpose. Same thing, probably the best example I can think of is the fight scene between Luke and Vader in Return of the Jedi. In that fight scene, Both characters, there's a lot of tension and emotion involved. There's a sense of finality. This is going to be their final encounter. There's a lot riding on this. It was a dramatic build-up, and also it wasn't all done it wasn't done in one single shot. There were cuts to other scenes. I think Star Wars does that a lot. But if you really feel emotion from that fight scene, that duel, that they tried to do in Revenge of the Sith between Obi-Wan and Anakin, they tried to recreate that sense of real drama, and they make this really long duel. They do a ton of flashy, spinning things with their blades and using force powers, and then they're fighting in this really kind of dangerous arena. And we all know that Vader's going to lose and that he's going to get burned, and we want to see how that happens. And, that kind of thing, they tried to build it up. And the whole point of, Obi-Wan being like, "You were the chosen one. You were supposed to set us free," or something like that. And I can't even remember what Anakin responded, but I remember it being lame. I can't even remember what he said in response to that, but it was a letdown. The scene was okay, yeah, it was visually cool. It was a cool fight, cool sword fight, totally unrealistic, but it really fell flat. And a lot of the prequel stuff fell flat. Like Yoda fighting Count Dooku was strictly just to make Yoda look really cool. That's all it was. The drama was not really there. And I blame Bruce Lee for this because I thought he's probably the one who kind of originated, hey, look, martial art fight scenes can be really cool. They can have an element of choreography, and they can have an element of realism. They can have speed, and the more the better. Bruce Lee almost always fought multiple opponents, and the American film that really expanded on that and solidified the cool action scene was The Matrix. Now, The Matrix had a good story. Second and third movie, maybe it broke apart a little bit, but The Matrix in general had a very cool story, and it made sense why he suddenly became a good martial artist. And okay, yeah, suspension of disbelief. He went through tons of training, knows all the martial arts. He's extensively trained. It's all burned into his brain. And also he has additional abilities given by the fact that he's fighting in a computer program and not in reality. So, okay, yeah, I understand that. But still, the fight scenes are basically meant to look cool. And definitely in the second and third movie where he's fighting multiple Agent Smiths, and then the final, Goku Superman battle against Agent Smith, not dramatic at all, just meant to be cool, but it was nauseating. It was nauseating. I find a lot of superhero films to have nauseating fights. The latest Superman movie, the fight was nauseating. Superman versus Batman, the fights were stupid to be obvious, to be plain, and their final battle against Apocalypse was not Apocalypse, but Doomsday was not. It wasn't very dramatic. It was just a big giant CGI slugfest of hyper-powered human beings, and it's not very interesting. I don't care for those people. A truly dramatic fight is the one between the American soldier and the Nazi soldier in Saving Private Ryan, the one where the Nazi ends up stabbing the soldier through the heart. That was a very dramatic fight. It didn't have to be cool. It was real. Not technically real, but it was meant to look like a real struggle and how a fight like that would really end. There's no fancy moves. There's no martial arts. Fights that are life and death like that can be over very quickly and very brutal. So, desperate fights, desperate for a struggle for survival. Whereas action movies, mostly now, I'm like, if they're doing all fancy fight moves, fancy kicks, fancy use of weapons, or if they have any kind of special power. Anytime I see a movie where it's Scarlett Johansson kicking ass, or it's that Wonder Woman movie, I couldn't take it. It was boring. It was too long, and it wasn't interesting. And Bruce Lee is the cause of that. he's the cause of that, because only Bruce Lee can make a Bruce Lee kind of movie. You want to watch Bruce Lee fight because you've heard all of these impressive athletic things that he's done. You understand this is a person with uncommon levels of athleticism, uncommon levels of training in his martial arts. That makes it, oh, okay, I'd like to see how he fights. Same thing with Jackie Chan, same thing with Jet Li, same thing with people who were real fighters and then went on to the movie screen. Chuck Norris I did find his things to be fairly lame, particularly his Walker Texas Ranger fights, like his really slow kicks and stuff. It just come on, boring, not cool. Like, if you're trying to make your fight cool, you should don't just add drama, add story elements, add some romance into the fight scene. Don't ruin it by trying to make it cool. Probably the fight scenes that actually are kind of redeeming action movies in that there's a certain element of danger, there's an element of drama and tension and romance to the actual action scene, would have to be the John Wick movies, because he kills people right away, and you expect that kind of person to kill people immediately. He has to kill people as fast as he possibly can. If he has a very long fight with anyone, and he did have a few long fights, they kind of made sense, but those fights were interesting, and they were also trying to make them dramatic and real, like a little bit of tension. It wasn't just looking like two people who are clearly just dancing a choreography. You have to make the fights a bit gritty, a bit brutal, a bit desperate, and it's nice for a change for somebody who's using a gun to actually hit his targets. Although that's a different video, and I know this is not a book review video. This is a kind of a movie thought. This is a miscellaneous video, and I'll occasionally have stuff like this. But a little bit of a clickbaity title: Bruce Lee ruined action movies. He introduced a new element to action film that sometimes can be reproduced, but too many lower budget or just lesser action videos try to make cool stuff, and it just flops. It's sad. It's embarrassing to watch. It's boring. Maybe I'm just getting older and I've lost taste for action films, but I feel like there's still a lot of potential for an action film to be a more serious film. And you don't have to have cool, fancy fighting. It's better, it's neater to to have a more dramatic fight. Now, one quick example before I end this. One action sequence that I'm thinking of is Game of Thrones Battle of the Bastards. Now, think what you will of however well portrayed the strategy was. I mean, I'm not going to go into like Jon just single-handedly charging and then being charged with cavalry and surviving and whatever. I don't care if the Lord of Light was supposed to keep me, make sure he's still alive or what. I don't care. What I liked about that battle is the emotions that it invoked, the sense of hopelessness when they were surrounded, the sense of claustrophobia when they're being pressed together, and also that sense, that feeling of drowning when Jon was almost trampled, which, that stuff would have happened. I think that's the only portrayal of a complete surround of that style of battle that I've ever seen, and I really like the way it was done. I don't care about the maybe inaccuracies. I don't care about the fact that they didn't properly arm 1-1, but it's just, I don't care about the fact that why don't they have shields? Why don't they have helmets on? But the emotions evoked from that made that a memorable and interesting sequence to watch. So the details were not really important. What was important was the drama of the events, the emotions that you're supposed to feel watching that. Whereas if it's just a cool fight scene, you don't really you're not emotionally attached. You're just watching the visual element, and that makes it lose a great deal of potential. So there you have it. Why Bruce Lee ruined action films, and probably an unpopular opinion because a lot of people love Bruce Lee. I loved Bruce Lee growing up. I don't see a reason to still care. He's been gone for a long time. The only thing I can think about is I admire his athleticism and his dedication to that more so than his dedication to kicking people's asses. That's all I can say to that. He brought an interesting element into human life. It's interesting to think of what he would have been like in the past or even today. Interesting things to think about, not necessarily important to me. Maybe they're important to you, I don't know. But I'm going to end there. Signing off. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Here I'm supposed to ask for you to like and share this video if you find it interesting, if you want others to talk about Bruce Lee and how he may or may not have ruined action films. I don't know, make a film, make a video, or reply video to this saying why Bruce Lee made action films better in the long run. Maybe he did. Maybe he did make action film better because now people are trying to figure out new ways of making fights cool. I still think fights, I don't like a really stupid and lame fight, but I'm bored with your generic cool fight. I want a fight that has an element of drama, that evokes emotion, that there's some change witnessed in the character, some outcome that is going to feed the story element. Okay, that's all. Thanks for watching.